The woke boycotts Budlight is getting it worse than any other company. Target is getting it bad. They've lost $14 billion worth of stock value and a lot of customers aren't going there anymore. But Budlight is getting absolutely destroyed. Their former president of distribution for Anheuser-Busch has said today they are losing shelf space permanently. It's going to happen in September when shelf space is reset based on sales from the prior period. If the beer isn't selling, the stores can't stock it. I've mentioned this before. I met someone from the beer industry, but what I can tell you is I've dealt with retailers and they cannot stock merchandise that does not sell no matter what incentives the manufacturer provides. Stores are there to sell merchandise. If the merchandise isn't selling, it's not going to be stocked, particularly if you're a number one brand. There's a large section that's usually set up for you. Some stores will only carry the top 3 brands and they will feature the biggest brand in the biggest place. Well, that's going to mean that you're going to lose all of your premium spots wherever your product is distributed. This is not just for beer, this goes for all merchandise that's sold in retail stores. On top of this, sales reps are starting to complain who sell Bud Light because not only are they getting constantly harassed in the streets by customers that are furious with Bud Light, but they're not selling product, and because they're not selling nearly as much product as they used to sell, they're losing as much as a third of their gross income. They can't afford that. They're not multimillionaires. They can't just ride it out. Some distributors have said they're going to help make up the missing amount of money for them. Other distributors have sales reps that are unaffected, but then the distributors are needing to make up the missed money out of their own pockets, which is just not viable. And of course, sales have dropped 30% on this beer compared to a year ago, even though it heavily discounted. We haven't even seen the numbers yet for Memorial Day weekend, which you're expecting are going to be even worse than the week before. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, really appreciate you guys. I'm trying to get the subscribers up to 15,000, so if you can subscribe, please do subscribe. Thank you so much for that. This is coming from the Daily Mail. Bud Light is running out of time and could lose market share forever. Ram will lose retail shelf space to Miller and Coors if they cannot reverse plunging sales, warns ex-Anheuser-Busch president of distribution Anson Fredericks. If Bud Light sales continue to lack, the brand risks losing shelf space at major retailers to competitors and locking in lower market share. According to Fredericks, in recent weeks, Bud Light sales have been down roughly a quarter from a year ago as the brand faces conservative backlash over an April marketing deal with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Now keep in mind the sales are reported to be 30 off. It's a massive amount. They're giving away the beer almost for free in many places. Beer is 14 cents a can. Some of the beer is absolutely free or cheaper than free because they're giving you a rebate in excess of the cost of the beer. Bud Light's parent company has lost $27 billion in stock market value. The amount of stock market value tends to fluctuate because stocks go up, stocks go down. Where they're at as of right now is their market valuation is $98 billion. It was $132 billion the day before they did the Dylan Mulvaney promotion, so technically it's down $34 billion. That's a lot of money to lose on one terrible promotion. Bud Light is also doing so badly that they've got themselves a verb that's being applied to other companies. Target is being Bud Lighted when you're being Bud Lighted. When people make a verb out of your company because it's doing so badly, then you know you're in some serious trouble. There's also a syndrome now called the Bud Light effect. Companies appear to be backing down from the LGBT agenda. This Pride Month, companies are reversing somewhat. Major League Baseball took their pride flag version of their logo down and put their normal logo back up because they just don't want the association. They can't take the risk. So Anson Fredericks, the former U.S. president of sales and distribution for St. Louis-based Anheuser-Busch, the company that owns Bud Light, said that retailers such as Walmart and Kroger typically reset their shelf space allocations in the spring and fall based on sales data for the fall. Reset in September. They generally take sales data from April, May, June, and July, and then, based off of that data in that time period, they will reallocate shelf space, he told DailyMail.com. If Bud Light sales continue to slump, so if they don't turn around by the end of July, even though April and May were horrendous for them, that shelf space will be allocated to Miller Lite or Slight Yingling and some other brands that have taken share away from them, which only makes sense. They're in the business to sell stuff at Walmart and all these retailers, big and small. If the stuff ain't selling, you can't take up the space. Those brands will have a better likelihood to succeed longer term because they have more shelf space, they have more inventory, they have more back stock, and they have more availability. For consumers, back stock can be a really big deal. Of course, shelf space is a big deal, but if you don't have back stock, and let's say you get a run on your product, it can't be resupply, and if it can't be supplied, it can't be sold. This is a very serious permanent change for Bud Light. They have permanently damaged The brand Frederick said that the vast majority of beer sales, some 80 to 90%, occur at traditional retail outlets as opposed to sales at bars and restaurants. Fredericks, who co-founded Stripe Asset Management with the Dec. Ramaswamy, believe it or not, here's what Fredericks has say Anheuser-Busch needs to figure out a strategy. It needs to make a statement about who their customers are and who they're going to serve now and try to regain those customers now in June and July. By the time it's August, September, it's too late. But Bump Williams, whose consultancy of the same name analyzes the alcohol industry, expressed skepticism that Bud Light faced an imminent reduction in shelf space at major retailers. And what's interesting about Bump Williams is they have very good data. They publish it on a weekly basis. That's how we get to see how badly Bud Light is doing. But they also were saying that there might be a price war this summer because there would be so much excess beer available from Bud Light, and Bud Light would sell it so cheaply, and then the competitors would have to deal with a price war, selling their beer really cheaply, like happened during the Katrina disaster. There was excess inventory for beer. They haven't been saying that much lately, because obviously no one will take the Bud Light beer almost at any price. The people that want it buy it. The people that don't want it, which is the majority, will not even take it for free. Well, Bud Light could lose shelf space based on lost sales, but I'd be hard-pressed to believe that retailers would reduce shelf space on the #1 selling brand in the country today on a year-to-date basis. And again, it could be right about that, but a year-to-date basis is something that you would look at to determine a likely trend on an average basis. Before April, sure, Bud Light was doing fine, but April 1st on it fell off an absolute cliff. There is no way they're going to maintain their shelf space come September. There's nothing they can say publicly. Giving the beer away for free is not doing it. The advertising is not doing it. They're in trouble. Well, if at the end of 2023